Thank you, Chairperson Hayden, and good afternoon. I am just delighted to be here. Congratulations to Stony Brook University. What a fabulous and exciting day. To President Kenny and President Emeritus Marburger, what a privilege to be in your presence. I've always said about presidential searches, we all stand on the shoulders of those who go before, and nothing is more true than at this wonderful institution. I am delighted to be here. I wouldn't have missed it for the world. I want to thank Carl and John OConnor for so openly inviting me into this process, and of course, Rick Nasty and Rich Gelfond and Jim Simons. You really made me a partner in this activity, and I'm incredibly grateful for you in doing that. It falls to me to make some of the very specific recommendations that were announced and supported in the Board of Trustees meeting immediately preceding this press conference. So I am very pleased to introduce to you the appointment of Dr. Samuel L. Stanley, Jr. as President of the State University of New York at Stony Brook, effective July 1. This has been an incredibly competitive search. You can judge the quality and caliber of the institution by those who seek to lead this great university, and clearly today is the culmination of just a very rigorous and competitive search. Dr. Stanley, as you all know, currently serves as professor in medicine and molecular microbiology at the medical school at Washington University in St. Louis, and then as importantly, as Vice Chancellor for Research for the entire university. He also directs the Midwest Regional Center for Excellence in Biodefense and in Infectious Disease Research, one of many of his NIH-funded initiatives, a multidisciplinary research center which bodes so well for the work that must continue here at Stony Brook and, quite frankly, across the SUNY system. As Vice Chancellor for Research, Dr. Stanley is credited with substantially advancing the research enterprise at Washington University, and in his role, he oversees, or did oversee, the research portfolio of over $540 million, almost $400 million of which comes directly from NIH funding. So he has broad scientific and research experiences, but also administrative management and, most importantly, leadership skills, which he brings to this job, overseeing extramural research funding for undergraduates, graduates, the faculty research, the tech transfer, all of which he will bring to Stony Brook University. For the record, Dr. Stanley received his BA in 1976 from the University of Chicago, his MD in 1980 from Harvard Medical School. After an internship at Mass General, Dr. Stanley became a fellow in infectious disease at Washington University, and I think, as they say, the rest is history. We are delighted that Dr. Stanley brings with him his spouse, Dr. Ellen Lee, who is with us, and I'm sure we'll say more about Ellen. She, in her own right, is a world-renowned gastroenterologist who is also a professor on the faculty at Washington University. And soon you will meet four wonderful children whom I've had the great privilege of meeting here today, and whom I understand have been enjoying the totality of the Stony Brook campus over the morning. So we're glad you came back for this press conference. As you might imagine, we are delighted that Dr. Lee is with us and are avidly excited about the potential that could come from her work here at Stony Brook as well. The family will live at Sunwood, the Stony Brook presidential home, and I am delighted on behalf of the Board of Trustees to offer my own welcome to Dr. Stanley, Dr. Lee, to the family. Welcome to Stony Brook University. Thank you.
Thank you, Chancellor Zimpher. In response to the chairman's reference to a troika, I don't know about Jim and Rich. I've never been part of a troika before, but I will say this, that that has certain connotations and such. But this has been one of the most transparent, democratic processes, and really what made it a success wasn't us, was the entire search committee. And the search committee, I'm not going to name everyone by name, but if you could just stand and be recognized for all your efforts, really. ably assisted by George Myers and Susan Hines. This search committee did just a terrific job. And I could not be more proud to be associated with a group of people, really. It was a pleasure and a privilege to be associated with each and every one of them. Next, I'm going to ask a gentleman who needs no introduction to this university. I think I got the year right, 1968, some 40 years ago. He came as the chairman of the math department, and throughout his extraordinary career has remained committed to Stony Brook University and dedicated to its success. His philanthropy is legendary, but I've come to know Jim over the last several years pretty well, and during this search process exceedingly well. And I could tell you that the philanthropy is just the beginning and the tip of the iceberg. His thinking, his living this university, what he envisions for this university, and his ability to help us attract a candidate of Dr. Stanley's credentials, I cannot speak enough about. So for a couple of words, I'd like to introduce Jim Simons.
Well, I'm really delighted to be here today, and that this has all come out so well. I did come in 1968, so Sam will be the fourth president that I knew, because I came on the other end of a search, and I was telling someone at lunch today, and I'm going to tell you all about that search. This one took 7 months, I believe, and seemed like a long time, but we did it on schedule and so on. But apparently that one took 5 years. That's what I understood. I was interviewed for the job by the provost. They were looking for a chairman of the math department, and I knew, but they'd been looking for 5 years. They had a series of 5 acting chairs, and I was a young fellow in 1968. So we had the interview, and he looked at me and said, "Well, Jim, I'll tell you one thing. You're the first person I've interviewed for this job who actually wanted it." And I said, I do, so they hired me. So this one didn't take 5 years, and we had a lot more candidates who wanted it, as far as I could tell. But we were extremely fortunate to find one that not only wanted it, but we wanted him. And it's really been a pleasure to, the committee was terrific, as has been said before. I had no official role on the committee, and Rich was the chair, and he did a great job. But I participated enthusiastically, listened to everybody, and I guess some of them listened to me. And well, it was pretty democratic, I have to say. And I looked at various people, and oh well, maybe this one. There was a lot that went on. It was a great exercise. I really have to say. I was dubious when I started, but it was a great exercise. Well, you never know. 20 people, they all came from. Who knew what they. Who knew if they would all agree with me? I mean, that was my that was my concern. But they had a lot of good things to say. I think everybody did. So I couldn't be happier that we've selected Sam, and that he did want the job, and that Ellen is coming. And I think it's a great double-barreled development for this university. I love this university, and I think we're going to take another big step forward in this next administration, as we have in the last 3. So we're all lucky to be here today and celebrate Sam's coming. So.
Thanks, Jim. Our next speaker is a man who likewise devotes a considerable amount of time and energy to the university. He's chair of the Stony Brook Foundation, and for those of you who know what the Stony Brook Foundation does, with some of the folks out there that I see, Carrie Stoller and others, they raise invaluable funds to help Stony Brook achieve its mission and its goals. He's a fellow alum with me at Stony Brook University, and I'm proud to call him my friend, Rich Gelfand.